All right. Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about today. First, let's talk about former President Donald Trump is back on Twitter, according to Elon Musk. I'll share with you what the president had to say about why he's deciding either he should or should not go on Twitter. So we'll have that conversation. Plus, there are 4 major cities in the United States that are being led by Black mayors. Does that put Black political power in a space of hopefulness? We'll have that conversation. Also, later on, can we talk a little bit about what's happening around the country, and around the world with the issue of the number of people that will be in the world, according to the United Nations, by the year 2030? 8 billion. Yeah. 8 billion people on the planet. What does that mean for developing countries? So we have those conversations and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for joining us today as we're having the conversation. A lot of folks are checking in, and I truly appreciate it. First and foremost, happy Monday. Happy Monday, folks. So if you're like me this time of year, especially when it's the week of Thanksgiving, you mentally have already checked out. Already checked out, but it doesn't mean that you need to check out today's show. Check out from today's show. You need to check into today's show. So I want you to join us in the chat as we have our online culture crew, as always, doing a great job continuing the discussions during commercial breaks and off air. But they are, folks, we want you to join the conversation right now. You can join us as we're streaming live on blackstarnetwork.com. Also, you can check us out as we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. We would love to have you as part of the conversation. First and foremost, let's check in with our contributors today. Of course, we got my big brother. I'm always happy to have him join us. In a few minutes, he's going to join us, Brother Michael Imhotep of the African History Network, and he's going to break it down for us like no one else can about some of these big conversations. But first and foremost, let's talk about Trump and Twitter, as it has been official that former President Donald Trump has been reinstated by the new owner of Twitter, Elon Musk. Take a look here, folks, and I'm going to share with you what the president had to say. Take a look. He snubs him. He snubs Twitter after Musk announces his reactivation of his account. Now, according to the conversation, folks, according to the story, apparently, President Trump says he don't want to come on. Now, there was a poll that Elon Musk had put on Twitter asking the people, the users, if they wanted President Trump to come back onto the platform. And based on the numbers of that poll, folks, take a look. It says slightly over 15 million Twitter users had voted in the poll within a 51.8% voting in favor of Trump's reinstatement. And as Elon Musk put it on his Twitter page, the people have spoken. Trump will be reinstated. And that's what he told it. Now, here's what President Trump said to that. He said, quote, "I don't see any reason for it." He said this during a video when asked whether he was planning to return to Twitter by a panel at the Republican Jewish Coalition annual leadership meeting. He said he would stick with his new platform, Truth Social, the app that he developed. And he said that by his Trump Media and Technology Group startup, which he said had better user engagement than Twitter and was doing, quote unquote, phenomenally well, end quote. I bet you that's going to change. Let's go to my big brother Michael in Hope Chat, African History Network, scholar, researcher, professor. Brother Michael.
Yes.
What do you make of this, sir? What is this? What is this? What is this kind of dance that we're seeing in between Elon Musk and Donald Trump? Donald Trump know damn well Truth Social ain't doing that well. Donald Trump know damn well he don't have that many engaged followers on Twitter. On Twitter, he had 88 million followers, my brother Michael. 88 million.
Right.
88 million is not checking in on Truth Social.
Well, yeah, he has 4.5 million followers on Truth Social. Donald Trump said that Twitter suffered from a lot of bots and fake accounts, and that the problems it faced were quote unquote incredible. But a lot of those bots and fake accounts were following Donald Trump. And we know that, the Internet Research Agency out of Russia, we know that they use bots and fake accounts on social media to push their agenda. So Donald Trump may eventually go back to Twitter. I think he's just trying to bluff, and he wants people to be on Truth Social. He has an agreement with Truth Social that any post, Trump is obligated to give Truth Social a 6-hour exclusive on any post that he makes on social media, but is free to post quote unquote political messaging, political fundraising, or get out the vote efforts, end quote, on any site at any time, according to a May Securities and Exchange Commission filing. So this is at the same time when you mentioned the Jewish Republican convention that took place in Las Vegas a few days ago, and you had people posturing like former Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey. You had others, Governor Chris Sununu, and others who were saying it's time to move past Trump because they're tired of losing. Okay.
Right.
And some of them are positioning themselves to run for president in 2024. So Elon Musk is a total disaster for Twitter. He does not know how to run a technology company. He just put out a ultimatum to staffers saying that he wanted them to work 12-hour days and go hardcore, things like this. A lot of them are going to take the 3-month severance pay buyout. And you have a lot of celebrities who are fleeing Twitter also because it's a total disaster under Elon Musk. So we'll see what happens with this.
So here's my thing on this, brother Michael. We know that I really wasn't keeping up with Twitter. Now, like Elon Musk is putting out these messages about every major or every minor. It seems like every minor little nuance that he puts on, that he makes with Twitter. He's like, oh yeah, we just updated this and updated that. And I'm like, sir, I mean, unless we don't need to know the behind the scenes stuff until it manifests itself into the user space, right? Like I'm not familiar with some of the language that he's putting out there. I remember seeing this one tweet. He's like, yes, we just updated the RS server and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, who are you talking to, bro? Like, this is not a stake, like a meeting with your staff here. Like, you're talking to users who really don't care about the intricacies and what's going on behind closed doors of the technology itself. It's just like, make sure that my tweet is seen, Make sure, you know what I mean? It's just basic stuff.
He's talking to the advertisers. he's signaling to the advertisers of Twitter, because the advertisers don't want to continue to advertise on a lot of the advertisers don't want to continue to advertise on the platform that is fueling hate speech, things like this. And a lot of advertisers told him, if you let Trump back on the platform, we're going to remove our ads. We're going to stop taking out ads on Twitter. Right. So he's speaking to the advertisers.
All right, look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Brother Michael. I want to hear from you, Culture Crew. So y'all make sure y'all chat, join us in the chat right now. And then let's continue to have this conversation for a few minutes. Since President Trump is being reinstated, he said he's not going back on. But, you know, he does have a problem with telling the truth. Does that mean you will log off? Are you logging off now because of everything that Elon Musk is doing? So join us in the conversation, share your thoughts, and we'll have those conversations when we return. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we've been talking about President Trump getting back on Twitter. He's been allowed to be reinstated on Twitter, says per se the new owner of Twitter, Elon Musk. But President Trump said, look, I'm not jumping on Twitter. I have my own social media platform, Truth Social. And as a result of that, people are just wondering what is going to be the future of the platform. We've been talking about this issue with Brother Michael Inhotep, who is the host of the African History Network, and giving us some interest and some insight as to what we could possibly expect. Now, I want to hear from you. Join us in the conversation right now. Post your comments in our chat section on YouTube, Facebook, and let us know what your thoughts are, and we'll jump right to it. All right. Excuse me. All right, Brother Michael. So Jawan checked in and said, Trump doesn't want to come back to Twitter because we will roast the hell out of him, but Truth Social is all folks that adore him. Do you think that's the case? That folks are going to create a situation where they're going to start roasting him if he gets back onto the major platform?
I don't know if he's afraid of being roasted. He can block people. Also, he can block people. And the difference between now and when he was president was based upon the guidelines of being president. You can't block people on social media. So, I mean, he has 88 million. He has 88 million followers still on Twitter. So I'm not sure if he's afraid of being roasted. I mean, if you incite an insurrection, I don't think you're afraid of being roasted on social media. If you saying hundreds of domestic terrorists to the U.S. Capitol building to overthrow the government, I don't think you're afraid of people calling you a liar or saying bad things about you on social media.
I appreciate how you candor, bro. I just love it. You were trying to overthrow the government. I don't think you can.
I don't think you're worried about people saying bad things about you on social media.
Like, he's at a different level of being roasted. He's like, like, that's a great point. Great point. Right. And you don't like my music. You say 10% of Twitter users create 90% of the posts. I don't know. I don't know about if that's the case. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I know I create posts. Look, I don't care what everybody else does, just as long as my post seen by 1,000 people. That's all I feel like. You know what I'm saying, Brother Michael? At the end of the day, that's all it is. Like, I want my post to be seen. If my post is seen, if you want me to put in a word, some crazy word to match some algorithm that's going to take my post to the next level, so be it. But I just want my post seen. So I'm not.
With Trump is different because Trump has a cult following.
Cult following.
A cult, C-U-L-T, a cult following. And people need to understand the difference between a religion and a cult is that in a religion, your savior dies for you. In the cult, you're asked to die for your savior. And this is a death cult. This is a death cult that Trump has. Okay. So people, we have to understand what we're dealing with.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Say that. Wait a minute. Say that once again.
The difference between a religion and a cult is in a religion, your savior dies for you. In a cult, you're asked to die for your savior, like Jim Jones in Guyana. Okay. And when you look at Trump, he did not give any pardons to any of those domestic terrorists who he sent to the U.S. Capitol building. It's over 800, it's almost 900 of them who've been arrested. And they're being charged, they're being prosecuted. Many of them, a lot of them have entered in guilty pleas. You had a number of them who've been convicted. Before Trump left office, he could have given pardons to those people who went to try to overthrow the government on his behalf. He didn't give a pardon to any of them. Now he gave a pardon to like his friends, like
what's that? Roger Stone.
Roger Stone. He gave pardons to his friends like Roger Stone. But those people who were his cult followers that he sent to the U.S. Capitol building, he didn't give any of them a pardon. They were asked to die for their savior.
Yo, see, this is why I love having you on, bro. See what I'm saying? See what you're dropping right now?
Right.
I appreciate that. That's a great point. Excellent point. Sean Ryan, you checked in and said, I think Trump is more interested in his platform trying to get those 80 million Twitter followers. Yeah, of course. I mean, Brother Michael, you mentioned 4.5 on True Social. I mean, I remember it was like 100. You know what I'm saying? So it was growing, obviously. But
it's growing,
I think to Sean's point. But to Sean's point, yeah, like he's trying to build up his platform. But so he doesn't want to. And this is, if I say anything, I'm gonna put this in perspective, y'all. Just walk with me on this thought for a moment. The thing that you can't say about Trump is that he gonna find a way to make it happen for him in some way, shape, or form, whether it's illegal or legal means. He gonna find a way. You know what I'm saying? To try to create this level of independence that he wants from the system, even though he benefits greatly from the system, right? Whether you're talking about the loopholes of taxes or real estate or just in general, like he benefits greatly from various systems, but he always, and this is something that we've seen since in his personal life, he always wanted to be the guy that paves his own road, even though he was given the utmost privilege to be where he is. He always wanted to be like, no, I came from nothing. There's something that I think he always wanted to. He contends within himself, Brother Michael, that he wants to be the, pull up your bootstraps type of guy, even though there was not any period in his life where he had to do that, right? He was always given help, but he gets off this persona like, no, I'm self-made. Like, you're not self-made.
No, he's not. He's not self-made. He was propped up by his father, Fred Trump, and he was put in business by his father, Fred Trump. But Donald Trump has always wanted to be accepted by the elite billionaires, by elite celebrities. He's always wanted to be accepted by them. That's why he made arrangements to do so many cameos in movies and TV shows, things like this. He always wanted to have that type of status. And we see that we see celebrities running away from him, but also we saw a lot of celebrities who said they were shutting down their Twitter accounts when Elon Musk bought Twitter also. And a lot of them feared that he would let Trump back on as well. So we saw a lot of celebrities leave Twitter as well. So Twitter is in huge trouble. Twitter is in huge trouble. And it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, Elon Musk put out a statement saying that bankruptcy is not out of the option. Now, the people have to understand, he bought it for $44 billion, but he got a lot of investors in this. This is not all his money. Okay. So if this goes under, and I hope it goes under, he's in deep trouble.
You say you hope it goes under.
Oh, I hope Twitter goes under this guy. And then I hope somebody comes and buys it for $4 billion.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
And make it into something better.
Right. It's probably Jack Dorsey is probably thinking the same thing too.
Yeah, Jack Dorsey, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. It's a lot of them. Let the price come down, and then we'll swoop in and buy it.
Swoop in, 5 billion,
6 billion. Yep. Because Elon Musk does not know what he's doing with Twitter.
No. It's and see, and I think the other part of it for me though, too, for me, brother Michael, is this is not like it's a public company. This is still a private company. This is not a government entity. It's a private company. We're users, not owners. It's a private company.
It was a public company. But when he bought it, he took it private.
Right. So the thing is, it's like, what is the vested interest? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm all for, and I've had conversations on this show talking about this, I'm all for some level of government intervention and regulation when it comes to some social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook. There has to be. It's just getting too out of hand. And And since they want to step up as if they are the town hall, they want to be that space. They want to be the space where no government has ever gone and bringing all these people together at one time. Then you need to be regulated.
Yeah, you have to be regulated like a public utility. And they want, and when especially there was a greater cry for regulation after the 2016 presidential campaign, when you had intervention from Russia, you had an internet research agency putting out fake information. You had a lot of fake stories on Facebook. Okay, and then Mark Zuckerberg tried to play coy and say that, oh, well, this doesn't really influence how people think or how people voted, the fake stories, things like this. But at the same time, Facebook was telling political candidates and those in political office, you should advertise on Facebook your political messages because we have so many millions of users and we're very influential, things like this. So you can't have it both ways, okay? Right. And we have seen Facebook crack down on a lot of the fake information, have fact checkers, things of this nature. But with Twitter, we see a loosening of this under Elon Musk, and it's not clear what the standards are going to be when it comes to harmful messages, when it comes to misinformation, etc. It's not clear what the standards are going to be with Twitter, who and Elon Musk describes himself as a free speech absolutist, but there are limitations to free speech.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Look, it's going to be interesting to see, to say the least, how this continues to unfold. But I am very interested to see that, as you said, it might just require this thing to fall apart all the way to the ground before we even see some real benefit from it. So it's going to be interesting. And I bet you, Brother Michael, Trump is going to change his mind. He's going to come back on it. He's going to be back on Twitter.
Yeah, he'll probably come back on Twitter, even though he has the stipulations with Truth Social. He can still be on Twitter to promote political messages, things like that, and he can take some of his same messages from Truth Social and 6 hours later put them on Twitter to market to his Indian followers.
Absolutely. All right, folks, look, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's have a conversation that I think is very important and notable, which is the conversation about Black folks in leadership positions in 4 major cities across the country, with the election of Karen Bass sealing the deal for Black leadership, especially on the mayoral side of things. People are looking at these 4 major cities across the country on whether this is going to lead to a rejuvenation of Black political power. We're going to have that discussion and a whole lot more. And of course, we want you to join us. Also, we're going to talk about the growth of the world, how the United Nations has put out an official report saying that they expect that the world's population will grow to 8 billion people. The question is, what will that do not only for those of us here in the West, but for developing countries in the motherland of Africa and other spaces, and how that may impact how resources are being appropriated. So we'll have that conversation. So stay with us. A lot to get to here on today's edition of The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, let's have a conversation about something that is very enlightening and could open the door for some new things to happen. And this is the conversation that I've been kind of really waiting to have, especially with my brother Michael in Hotep, to talk about, what's going on politically around the country. Of course, y'all know we've been talking heavily about politics and more importantly, the Black voter and looking at what happened with this midterm elections. There were some highs and there were some lows. But there was a new report that has come out, and I'm going to pull this up very quickly. There was a new report that showed, and this is from the Black Mayors Association. Man, oh man, and I'm really excited to share this with you folks, because sometimes you get so wrapped up in other small things that you forget to look at the big picture. Here's the situation. Did you know that Black mayors lead 4 of the largest U.S. cities after this win from Karen Bass? Congresswoman, now Mayor-elect Karen Bass, won the election in Los Angeles, and here in Los Angeles. Now, according to the African American Mayors Association, which represents over 100 Black mayors leading cities across the nation, they celebrated the landmark achievement in a statement released Thursday. And in their statement, they say that as Black mayors continue to win elections this cycle, we are excited that for the first time, the 4 largest cities, New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Houston, are each led by an African-American mayor. I want to bring my brother Michael and Hotep into the conversation as we look at this. And Brother Michael, 4 major cities. They are 4 Black mayors leading the charge on each of these cities, especially now with Karen Bass as the new mayor of Los Angeles. She gets inducted on December the 12th.
Right.
You got Eric Adams, who was voted mayor of New York City in November 2021, excuse me. Mayor Lori Lightfoot was elected by Chicago voters in 2019, and Mayor Sylvester Turner has held the role in Houston since 2016. Now, this is really big. Now, the other part about this, they said, Brother Michael, is that a record of 145 Black women filed or pledged to run for Congress in the recent midterm election, up from 130 in the 2020 election, as reported by the Center for American Women in Politics. And
Right.
So when you have Black mayors in charge of some of the 4 largest cities, and it's interesting that we're seeing this, and let me throw this out there. We may see some change in Atlanta, Georgia. That's another city that I'm keeping my eyes on. But when you have 4 Black mayors in charge of these 4 large cities, what does that say? What do we take from that as it relates to Black political power in this country?
Well, the win by Representative Karen Bass from California against Republican challenger Rick Caruso is a huge win. She'll be the first African-American female mayor of Los Angeles. And he spent a lot more money on his campaign as well. Okay. I don't remember the exact numbers, but she was
over
outspent.
$100 million.
Yeah, over $100 million. Yeah, over $100 million. And he's running on the platform of fighting against crime and law and order, things like this. And she's taking a more holistic approach to policing. She's from California. She's served in the House of Representatives for 6 years, representing Los Angeles. So I think it's a huge win. Now, how successful she is, I think, has a lot to do with African Americans in the city of Los Angeles and how we push our agenda to get things accomplished. Because you get somebody elected who you voted for does not mean you can go to sleep for 4 years, because there's also a counter force that will push against her to keep her from getting certain things done. She made fighting homelessness as one of her top issues. Okay. And mayors have a lot of power when it comes to doing executive orders. I was on a committee to write an executive order here in the city of Detroit under former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. I didn't vote for Kwame in either two of the elections, but because of a position I previously had, and I was managing a construction trades program, we got on a committee to write an executive order that dealt with hiring people for construction jobs, not road construction, but building construction jobs in the city of Detroit. So mayors have a lot of power that they can use to help people, but also you have to understand there's a city council. So you can't just and the city council is the counterbalance to the mayor. So you can't just complain about the mayor. You can't just talk about the mayor. You also have to deal with city council. And one of the most important things that people don't understand, and I saw this here in Detroit when one of my frat brothers who passed away, Angelo Henderson, when he used to host the show Your Voice here on what used to be WCHB 1200 AM. He would have former city council president Charles Pugh on the show periodically, and people could call in with questions and try to get help, things like this. 80% of the calls that came in, people were complaining about things that fell under the responsibility of the mayor. But because they didn't understand politics, they didn't understand the difference between the responsibilities of city council and the responsibilities of the mayor. They just running around yelling and screaming, but don't know who to go to get what it is they want because they don't understand politics. So we have to understand our city charters. We have to understand what are the duties and responsibilities of a mayor that are different than that of the city council, so you can understand who to go to push your agenda to and get things actually accomplished.
So it's sort of, and I'm not going to diminish the wins because that is big positions. But to the point of, you can have your representative, you can have your person as the mayor, but it still has to be that checks and balance still has to be coming from the city council. So you still got to get the right people in the city council to kind of push certain agenda items further along, because it's a partnership between those two offices, right? So is that what I'm hearing from you, Brother Mike?
Yeah, because certain things like contracts over a certain amount have to be approved by city council, generally speaking. Generally speaking, when it comes to cities, but mayors do have a lot of power when it comes to executive orders. They have a lot of power when it comes to policies within their administration. Okay, so you want to be. This is why organizations are so important. They get engaged in these different processes to be able to understand who to go to get what it is that you want, and be able to understand how to constantly push your agenda also. Right.
All right, I want to hear from our culture crew because folks are checking in about this. Folks, what are your thoughts? 4 Black mayors leading 4 major cities: New York, Chicago, Houston, and Los Angeles now. And I would love to get your take on it, folks. Post your comments in our chat and let me know how you feel. Does this push the idea of Black political power forward, or is that yet to be seen? Let's talk about the other part. Here's the other part about this, Brother Michael. Lightfoot, Eric Adams, Sylvester, Mayor Sylvester, and Mayor-elect Karen Bass.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're Black, the way they go about governing is different. How much of their difference weighs upon how we should see whether they're pushing the Black political agenda?
Well,
and I hope I'm framing the question in the right way.
I understand. So the question I would ask is, what is the Black political agenda?
Okay.
That's first and foremost. And what I explain to people who keep talking about Black agenda, and they say, I'm not voting for anybody that doesn't have a Black agenda. The first thing that you should do is identify those who have an anti-Black agenda and make sure you stop them. This is the mistake people made in Florida when they didn't vote for Andrew Gillum in 2018 and let Ron DeSantis become governor. Because I talked to on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, I talked to numerous African Americans that lived in Florida and said, "Oh, I'm not voting for Andrew Gillum because he doesn't have a Black agenda." No, you have to understand politics. I teach a whole concept called political self-defense. Okay, number one, whose policies are most beneficial for African Americans? Number two, whose policies will do the least amount of harm? Okay. Number three, who can create an environment for you to push your agenda the farthest and get the most accomplished? Number four, who will protect gains that have already been made, because there's always people trying to take you back. Okay. And number five, you have to be able to identify those whose policies will harm you, because you have to make sure that you stop them. A lot of times people think, oh, if I just don't vote, things will stay the same. No, they're not. Most likely they'll get worse. Especially when you have people who get in office who are purposely trying to target you and do you harm. You have to first identify those who have an anti-Black agenda, because an anti-Black agenda is worse than not having a Black agenda. It's one thing to say, hey, my policies are going to help everybody. If I'm advocating for $15 an hour, this is going to help everybody. It's another thing to have people who purposely want to target you and pass voter suppression bills, okay, and want to have a police force to go out and arrest people who they claim voted illegally, when it was the voter department that sent them the voter registration card in the first place. Okay, so you have to identify people who have the anti-Black agenda and make sure that you stop them. It's not only about who has policies that benefit African Americans, is understanding how to identify and stop those who are trying to harm us as well.
So once we identify who has an anti-Black agenda, then out of that we can come forward and say, okay, what policies benefits the most, which policies causes us the least harm, which policies gives us the space to make the gains that we want to make. Like we can create. Right, to take the agenda farthest, right.
But most importantly, we have to understand a Black agenda is not what politicians give us. That's what we give them. But to be able to put together a Black agenda, you have to understand history, law, and politics to be able to put together a Black agenda. This is the problem that you had. A lot of people mean well, but this is the problem that you had when you had rappers trying to put together Black agendas saying they want race-specific policies. But based upon Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Section 601, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs, race-specific policies are illegal. Right. So you got people out here putting out Black agendas who don't understand law and did not even consult with attorneys who have experience in crafting legislation, trying to put out fantasy, something that's illegal, something that's not going to happen. And then when we don't get it, we get disappointed.
Damn, man, that's a hard pill to swallow there, Brother Michael.
Go to archives.gov and read the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We don't understand law. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Okay, and I'll post a link here because I deal with this, on my show and things like this, and I hear people say all this Simple Simon nonsense. And it's like, no, it's just like people who think that the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, which is ostensibly called the Asian hate crime bill. It's not an Asian hate crime bill. It's the COVID-19 hate crimes bill. If you go to congress.gov and read it, number one, it doesn't deal with race-related hate crimes. It deals with COVID-19 related hate crimes. Number two, if you read the language, it applies to African Americans because it's not race specific. It came about because of Asian Americans being targeted. But the first hate crimes act in the history of this country was signed into law in 1968 by President Lyndon Baines Johnson as part of the Fair Housing Act. And that was a result of the modern day civil rights movement. And that hate crimes act was largely for African Americans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I see you got that link in the chat. Let's go to some.
Yeah, go to section titles. Go to Title 6, Roman numeral 6, V1. And we're gonna pull that up, and I want to get a couple of comments from our online culture crew because folks are checking in. Real Brooklyn, you said, Brother Michael, what are your main issues to tackle local, federal, and world issues? Is there 2 items that can be focused on in order to move more progressively in the people's favor? And I'm assuming, and first there's the information. Thank you so much for putting up Real Brooklyn's message to Brother Michael. So here's the information that Brother Michael wants us to share. It looks like a lot of words, folks, but you just take the time to read it. Just hit Control F and search for Title V1, and it takes you right to Title 6, non-discrimination and federally assisted programs, which is section 601. Control F and it takes you there. And I don't know if we have it up on the screen, but if we get up on the screen, but it says no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Okay, so race-specific programs have been illegal in this country since at least 1964. And in California, they have a similar law so that race-based programs are illegal. Now, you can craft policies that disproportionately benefit African Americans. Okay, it's just like federal student loan assistance, because 72% of Pell Grant recipients are African Americans. When Biden put in the stipulation that if you had a Pell Grant, you can get up to $20,000 forgiven. Well, that is going to move 500,000 African American families from a negative net worth to a positive net worth, and it's going to wipe out the remaining student loan debt of a little more than 25% of African Americans have student loans. Okay, now it's being challenged in court by Republicans. They're filing lawsuits to block it. Okay, but this is an example of crafting policy that will disproportionately help African Americans, while at the same time not violating it being a race-based policy. Okay, but you have to understand law to understand how to navigate throughout the system. Everything they do to us, they use the law to do it. And when they get caught breaking the law, they go hire an attorney at law to defend them in the court of law. So the common denominator is law. So we need to understand the law better than they understand it, so we can disarm them of that weapon and use it to our benefit. This is political self-defense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the way you put that. Let's go back to the let's go back to the comments. Eddie Thorne, Eddie, you said at least 2 of those mayors will have to deal with Republican-controlled state house legislatures. Brother Michael, speak to that. Let's talk a little bit about that, because that relationship between the mayor and the state lawmakers is a very interesting one, depending on the state that you're in.
Right, exactly. And this is why state legislatures are so important and governors are so important. So those mayors are going to have to do the best they can to deal with the state legislature and understand, because like, for instance, the majority of control over policing is not at the federal level, is at the state and local level. Okay, so there may be some things that they can do locally, and they can get funding from the White House and things like this for certain initiatives. But they're going to have to contend with their state legislature and their governor as well, which is also why who you vote for your state legislature and governor is so important. So you can't just focus on your mayor and say, oh, we don't need to vote for the governor, we don't need to vote for the state legislature. All that works together, as well as like your county commissioner, okay?
Right.
Your county
Right.
commissioner and your county executive, okay?
Right.
But mayors do have, and it may vary from city to city because of the city charter, but
Right.
mayors do have leeway in what they can do in the form of executive orders and different policies they can put in place in their administration.
Let me tell you, brother, in Baltimore, when I was living in Baltimore, there was always, for years, you know, we had Republican Governor Larry Hogan, who served as the mayor.
Right.
And of course, you know, he was mayor during the period of former Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh. He was mayor during the period of Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott now. Of course, he's about to leave office because he did 8 years. He was voted twice. So he did 8 years. And so his time is almost over, and bringing in Wes Moore. But one of the big things that has always been a major part about Baltimore politics is the relationship that Baltimore has with the capital of Annapolis, and how Larry Hogan saw the city of Baltimore, how it became like this cloud, Brother Michael, over the state going to the governor as it relates to police funding, policing issues, because a lot of the police policies were dictated by state lawmakers.
Right.
As it related to school funding.
Yes.
Because our city schools were dictated by state lawmakers, and that money was given from the state.
Right. But
So
also your
those two areas-
HBCUs in Maryland. There
and
was a
those
fight over
HBCUs.
funding from the state.
Facts.
Yes. Yes.
So that relationship, it became clear, like there were times when the governor and the mayor of Baltimore City would be butting heads, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And that would and that would stop not just the flow of money. It was like when COVID came and hit Baltimore, the resources of getting tests and all of those extra resources, there were some discrepancies because the governor and the mayor weren't on the same page.
Right. Right.
Or there was it was like little personal issues. You know what I'm saying? And so that relationship is absolutely pivotal for a mayor. And I heard Karen Bass say just in an interview last week, she was saying that one of the big things is that she wants to get the city of Los Angeles to get the federal fundings and state funding for the city of Los Angeles. Well, say if she got this, we got Governor Gavin Newsom, who is a Democrat. She's a Democrat. He actually, I think he endorsed her for this run. So there's this expectation that those two people will be on the same page in getting LA up and running, especially for Black and brown folks. But that relationship is so key and important. And I didn't see it until, growing up in Baltimore, you don't see it until you kind of get to see how the levers of power are pulled.
Right.
And understanding that. But yeah, man, it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference in the world.
Well, the advantage that Representative Karen Bass has and Mayor-elect Karen Bass has is that she's been involved in crafting legislation at the federal level. Okay, so she has that experience. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Also, your state legislature, if I remember correctly, your state legislature is controlled by Democrats as well in California. Okay,
right.
So that's a big help, but we have to push these issues. We have to push these agendas from the ground up. Okay, we can't just say, oh, well, because we have an African-American woman as mayor, we can't just look at her as super Black woman. She's just going to get everything done. That's the mistake that we made with President Barack Obama, and we just thought everything was going to change. It's like, no, you don't understand the opposition against him. Number one. Number two, you had the rise of the Tea Party in 2010 that was financed by the Koch brothers. Okay, and Democrats lost control of the House of Representatives in that 2010 midterm election, and there was a backlash to the Affordable Health Care Act. And the Affordable Health Care Act greatly benefited African Americans. 3 million non-elderly Black people got health care from the Affordable Health Care Act who did not already have health care. So when they lost control of the House in 2010, then this stopped their ability to get bills passed through the House and then go to the Senate. Okay, because it's backlash, and then they lost control of the Senate in 2014 as well, and then Mitch McConnell became Senate Majority Leader in 2014, and then McConnell blocks 103 federal nominations from President Barack Obama and one Supreme Court nomination in Merrick Garland, which then set it up for Trump to fill 226 federal bench nominations, which are lifetime appointments, when he became president through the Electoral College, because we don't understand how the Electoral College works. And he got 3 Supreme Court justices confirmed also.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, when we come back, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Brother Michael, as we look at this issue of 4 Black mayors leading 4 major cities, let's talk about the issue of representation. How important it is for us to be excited about representation, even though we know that each one of these Black mayors are going up against significant forces to keep their power from being fully exerted, especially for the benefit of Black and brown communities. So let's talk about representation. And I want to spend a little more time on that. Also, in the next hour, let's talk a little bit about this latest count from the United Nations, this latest report that shows that there are going to be they're projecting that there will be 8 billion people on the planet, folks, and how that will impact countries like the United States in America and the developing countries that are a part of the great continent of Africa. We'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. So stay with us. More coming at you right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We've been having a discussion talking about a new milestone in progressive politics, as we are based upon a new report coming out of the Association of Black Mayors that shows that out of 4 Black cities, folks, check this out, 4 major cities, and this is coming from the African American Mayors Association, representing over 100 Black mayors leading cities across the country. They're celebrating the landmark achievement of 4 major cities having 4 Black mayors: New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Houston, Texas. And so as we're looking at this, this is a milestone. This is a good moment or a good cause for celebration, but what will it really mean? We've been checking in with Brother Michael Imhotep of the African History Network. And Brother Michael, folks truly, truly appreciate you, bro. And let's bring you back into the discussion. Folks truly appreciate you on the chat, man, for always sharing some analysis and your insight and just so much knowledge to these conversations. So I'm always happy to have my brother on. I'm always happy to have you on. But Brother Michael, I want to go to something that was said by the head of, and I'm going to pull up this quote very quickly. This is coming from a woman, Glenda Carr, president of Higher Heights for America,
right,
which is a political advocacy organization supporting Black progressive women in politics. She put it out there. She said, if Americans truly want to see advancement in progressive policy and diverse representation in our government, we have to invest in Black women running in gubernatorial races. But investing doesn't just mean money. We have to invest our time, energy, and talents if we want to get Black women candidates across the finish line. And that's all well and true. Here's my question to you and to our listeners and to our watchers. When we talk about that level of representation, and I'm starting to become more mature, and I think I'm evolving from you and from other folks, Brother Michael, and understanding this.
Right.
No, real talk. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just letting you know, bro. You teaching me just as much as we having a conversation. But one of the things that I'm learning is representation is good, but how much weight should we place on it, given the fact that we have been in cities across this country. We had, like in Baltimore, we've been under Democratic control for 30, 40, sometimes 50 years in some of these cities, right? And we're not seeing the type of progress. We're not making the type of gains that we want to see make. But we have Black people in power. You know what I'm saying? That representation is there. How much weight should we actually place on representation?
Well, it depends upon who's representing you. Representation does not always mean something good. You have to have good representatives, okay? You have to have good people representing you. And then also, African Americans have to understand is that the election is the end of one process and the beginning of another process. It's the beginning of the process of holding them accountable and continue to push your agenda forward to get to hold people accountable on their campaign promises. And also go after people who are trying to block what it is that you're trying to get as well, trying to block what it is you're trying to get accomplished. So after the election, we can't go back to sleep. You have to stay engaged. And this is why our organizations are so important to keep us informed on what's taking place. And you want to the town hall meetings that either your mayors or members of city council and your representatives are having. You want to at least have representatives from your organization at those town hall meetings so they can bring the information back to you. Also, you want to get on their email list, okay? Because their email list gives you information about what resources are. It gives you information about what they've been doing, things like this, bills they've gotten passed, etc. So you want to go to their websites, get on their email list, because that gives you a lot of information. Also, you want to stay engaged. So representation. I mean, Clarence Thomas has been on the U.S. Supreme Court for 30 years.
Come on, bro.
That representation has not been good representation. So you have to have good representatives, okay, to represent for representation to mean something for us. But also a lot of that has to do with our engagement as well. We can't just leave it up to one elected official or something of that nature.
So you put this in the proper context, which I think is important, which is the fact that, yes, I mean, representation is cool, but that's still like a quota. That's not necessarily means that that's a pathway to power. And it's supposed to, and like you brought up Clarence Thomas. Mm-hmm. Bro, it feels like we don't have a black man on the Supreme Court, Brother Michael.
Right. Yeah, we haven't since Thurgood Marshall. And his wife is quite possibly being involved in trying to overthrow the government too. Okay, so his white wife. Now, when you research Jenny Thomas, right? Rachel Maddow talked about this on the Rachel Maddow show on MSNBC. And this makes perfect sense. And I'm going to pull up this article here because when back in the 80s, Jenny Thomas was part of some cult. She was part of a cult back in the 80s. Okay. And what happened was she was able to get out of the cult, and she went through some type of counseling or something like this. Right. And I'm going to pull this up right here. The untold story of Jenny Thomas anti-cult activism. The untold story. So this is from NBC News. This is I'll put the link here in the chat. So it's important to understand who these people are. Okay, because this makes perfect sense, because she used to be in the cult. Now she's in the cult of Donald Trump. All right. And it makes perfect sense. And I don't think the therapy worked. I don't think it was 100% effective. The untold story of Jenny Thomas anti-cult activism after she was quote unquote deprogrammed. This is NBC News. This is not conspiracy theory stuff.
This is not alternative news.
Yeah, no. Jenny Thomas became an anti-cult activist after being pulled out of a self-help group in the 1980s. She said in a video obtained by NBC News, several people knew her then. Several people who knew her then are surprised by her apparent embrace of election conspiracies that originated with QAnon. Well, it don't surprise me, because I don't think the deprogramming was 100% accurate. I don't think it was 100% successful.
Wait a minute. Yeah. That was, if I was a psychologist, I would say she has an inclination to cult following.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Like I wouldn't say, "Oh my gosh, why are we surprised?" Like, "Oh, surprising." She loves that stuff. I mean, she probably goes down the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole so deep and so far. It is probably crazy. And let me just say this. It's hard to not believe that she doesn't put some of that stuff in the head or the heart of her husband who sits on the Supreme Court. Look, let me just tell you, folks, y'all know when you marry, and y'all be like talking about, "Oh my gosh, my husband, my wife is my best friend," and your husband and your wife can be your co-partner in crime. Your husband and your wife can be your cohort. Your husband and your wife can be your partner in madness and foolishness. Like, because y'all share the same space. Y'all, come on, man. Come on.
Right.
Let's think through this situation. But this is, I'm not necessarily surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Let me go to a couple of some more comments very quickly as we close out this part of the conversation. Mingli Natasha Surge, you said, it seems like Republicans are against all the bills that would help people, like lowering the cost of med students loan forgiveness, of meds, student loan forgiveness, the list goes on. Yeah,
but they're also against the Inflation Reduction Act, even though they ran on reducing inflation and fighting against inflation. And the Inflation Reduction Act will also disproportionately help African Americans as well. No Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for the Inflation Reduction Act. And now that they've won the House by a slim majority, now they're talking about all the investigations that they want to have into Hunter Biden and the origins of coronavirus, all these investigations. They're not talking about passing legislation to actually help people. Okay, right. They're not talking about fighting inflation, fighting crime, things like this. Now they want to launch all these nonsensical investigations. Okay, so this is why I warn people. I'm like, no, you can't let crazy in power. That's just all it is to it. Okay, you can't let crazy have power. There's a fact sheet at whitehouse.gov how the Inflation Reduction Act helps Black communities. Okay. And it goes through and breaks down these policies because we African Americans and Latinos were disproportionately hurt by inflation. And we know 54% of inflationary costs are due to corporate profits, translation, corporate greed. So this is why politics is so important. Understanding politics, this is why voting is so important. We have to stop crazy. Okay. And when you got people like Lauren Boebert, who appears she won re-election in Colorado, you got crazies like Marjorie Taylor Greene, crazy QAnon lady. You got crazies like Rick Gates, things like this. You're gonna have crazies running the House of Representatives, and that is extremely dangerous.
Very dangerous. Very dangerous. Let's get one more thought from Dejima Boutique. You said, what are we celebrating? Representation is good, but we have to demand.
Right. We have to demand, and we got to make reasonable demands also. When you say you want race-specific policies, we demand stuff that's just nonsensical. I'm not saying the sister is demanding nonsensical things, but a lot of this stuff that I hear is just nonsensical. Now, when I talked about Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and I said in California, they also have a similar law against race-based policies. This plays a part in the reparations task force in California because they voted by 5. They voted 5-4 in it was in 2021, 2022, March 30th, 2022. And there's a good article from the New York Times about this. They voted 5-4 for any reparations benefits or compensation. It has to be based upon lineage, not race. Because race-based policies in California are illegal. Okay, so you will have to trace your an ancestor, an African American ancestor of African descent that came to the U.S. prior to 1900. You have to trace your ancestry back to them to get any type of benefits. It's not going to go to all 2.6 million African Americans who live in California, but they had to do this so that when it gets challenged in court, it won't get struck down in court. Okay, because they have to navigate through the law. That's just that, but that comes with understanding law.
Absolutely. So as we close out on this part of the discussion, Brother Michael, what should be some of the things that you would recommend that we should keep in mind? I mean, again, we got 4 Black mayors, 4 major cities. Some of these mayors are going to be up for re-election in a couple of years, but for the next year or so, how should we look at this? How should we approach this? How can we use this for building any type of momentum to make some gains and getting some things on our agenda actually done?
Yeah, I think number one, we need to join organizations that are working, like local organizations that are working to really get things accomplished for African Americans and have some type of track record of doing that. It could be various local grassroots organizations. Number two, you want to I would say go to the website of the mayor, of the city council, find out who your city council person is, if it's by district, because like here in Detroit is by district. Okay, at one point it was at large. So find out who your city council person is, and get on their mailing list. Look at your city charter, you get a better understanding of your city charter and whose responsibility is what. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said before, a lot of people don't know the responsibilities of the mayor and the responsibilities of city council. They just run around angry, just complaining. Okay. And also we have to leverage our economics to enforce our political agendas as well. This is why it's so important to support African-American owned businesses, because we have to finance a lot of our own candidates, finance better candidates. And then we're also going to have to start using economic withdrawal strategies to target a lot of corporations that put people in office who keep passing policies that are harmful to us as well. So, you know, all this works together. So we have a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do. And I think that we should be very clear. I'm going to go back to that piece you pointed out earlier, Brother Michael. We want to have a Black political agenda, then we got to look at the policies, the laws, and those things that are not in the interest.
Yeah,
they're not in the interest of Black political power, right? We gotta start from somewhere, and you know we're in a very interesting place over the next. Let me see. This is 22. We're about to close out, God willing, 22. We're going into 23. Between now and the time we go to the polls. For the president, for the presidential election,
right?
We got to have some very serious conversations, very, very serious conversations. And I just want to throw something out there. You know, look at the history. And I Brother Michael, started researching that history of what happened in Gary, Indiana, 50 years ago in 1972, where they had that great Black political convention that was led by Amiri Baraka and many others. Looking at that as maybe that's the template by which we can move forward on a Black political agenda, because I think it's time for us to think outside of the box. Now, I know that's a whole different conversation, but just starting to look at that history and seeing, okay, what can we take from that history to use it to get some level of political power now? What's your take on that very quickly?
Yeah, that can be extremely important. One thing I think is important is to put out, because when we come together from different sections of the community, different ideologies, we come with different levels of understanding history and politics. Before you come together, all those people coming together, which is good, you got to put out some information that lays a basic historical foundation, so we can understand history and understand some history of politics. So when we come together, people are operating more on a similar basis as opposed to all this argument, because everybody thinks their way is the best way. If your way was the best way, we wouldn't be in the predicament we're in today right now. Okay. So, but if we have this basic level of understanding of history and politics before we come together, then I think we can get a lot more accomplished and operate based upon the agenda as opposed to all this arguing back and forth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's talk about the world's population being projected to grow to 8 billion people, the impact that it has on the West, and more importantly, the developing countries of Africa. So stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause to long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I wanted to talk about have a conversation about something that you may have seen. And, knowing that my brother Michael and Hotep was going to join us today, I thought that he would be one of the perfect voices for us to get an understanding and context about this major milestone that the United Nations has pointed out. Here's the word, folks. According to the United Nations, they just did a recent report. They're projecting that the world's population, and take a look at this. I want to throw this up on the screen. So let's go to quote one, Keenan and Ariel. Thank you. The world's population will be hitting 8 billion people, folks. Now, according to the United Nations, the world's population will hit an estimated 8 billion people. This came out on Tuesday, according to a United Nations projection, with much of the growth coming from developing nations in Africa. Among them is Nigeria, where resources are already stretched to the limit. More than 15 million people in Lagos compete for everything from electricity to light their homes to spots on crowded buses, often for 2-hour commutes each way in their sprawling mega city. And over the next 3 decades, over the next 30 years, folks, take a look. The West African nation's population is expected to soar even more, from 216 million this year to 375 billion, according to the United Nations. That will put Nigeria in a tie for 3rd place with the United States after India and China. it projected the world's population will reach around 8.5 billion in 2030. So just a little less than 8 years, 9.7 billion in 2050, and 10.4 billion in 2100. Now take a look. The UN report puts the current US population at 337 million, reaching 375 million in 2050. The population growth rate in 2021 was just 0.1%, the lowest since the country was founded. So according to a demographer out of the Brookings Institution, Mr. William Fry, he said, going forward, we're going to have to slower growth. The question is, how slow? The real wild card for the US and many other developed countries is immigration. Charles Kinney, a senior fellow at the Center for Global Development in Washington, says environmental concerns surrounding the 8 billion mark should focus on consumption, particularly in developed countries. Population is not the problem. The way we consume is the problem. Let's change our consumption patterns. Woo! Take a look at this. This is the picture from the Griot and talking about this story. I want to bring my brother Michael and Hotep in. Here's the thing, Brother Michael. You ready for this, brother?
Yes.
Here's the thing. Social scientists, demographers, folks are looking at political scientists, folks are looking at this potential growth, right? From where I'm standing, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna put this. I'm making sure I have this right now, according to the numbers I'm seeing, and I could be wrong. So you tell me if this sounds right based on your research, Brother Michael. The world's population back in 2021 was 7.8 billion people, right? 7.8 billion people. That's for the whole world. So we're talking about going up another 700 million people or so within the next 8 years. So the thing is, if this growth continues to happen the way the UN projects, and a lot of the growth is happening in developed countries in Africa, my greatest concern for this situation, Brother Michael, is that Africa will become a target because there aren't enough resources, there aren't enough land. You know, you're talking about the consumption patterns, and more importantly, the environmental concern. The African nations will become a target by those who don't want to see that growth. They'll become a target to say, you know what, we need to do something about cutting down the African population. Now, we know that based on, you also always emphasize history, over the years and years of our history, we know that there have been moments in our history where millions of people have been culled, C-U-L-L-E-D, folks, culled from the population as a result of a number of things, right? You had environmental concerns, you had biomedical issues, there was disease and famine and all of these things. But what's stopping those who want to try to wrap control around this situation from taking some nefarious steps to make sure that they can do it? Now, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, Brother Michael.
Right.
I'm not trying to be a conspiracy. I'm just looking at history. I'm thinking about if the growth continues to happen the way the UN projects, this puts everything at risk. Political power, economic development, environmental justice, schooling, healthcare, land distribution, all types of things will have to change very quickly and very fast to meet that demand. Am I crazy in thinking this way?
No, I don't think you're crazy in thinking this way. One of the things that is really causing a problem is climate change, and how climate change is devastating agriculture as well. So you have climate change. Now, like if we look at the article from the Associated Press that talks about Lagos, Nigeria, and it talks about how more than 15 million people in Lagos compete for everything from electricity to light their homes, to spots on crowded buses, etc. And they also talk about Kinshasa, the capital of the Congo, where more than 12 million people live, and many families struggle to find affordable housing and pay school fees. Now, Africa has the natural resources it needs, but the natural resources are being plundered by Europeans and the Chinese. So if these outsiders stop raping Africa of its natural resources, Africa would have the resources it needs to address a lot of these issues. Okay, so you'll probably see more famine. You may see more pandemics. I mean, if we go back to 1918 and the Spanish flu pandemic, that killed about 50 million to 100 million people worldwide, estimates are. Somewhere between that. And then you have coronavirus now. So when they talk about immigration, now here in the US, a lot of economists are saying that the US, because of labor shortages in the US, like right now, there are about 10 million available jobs in the US. Because of labor shortages, you need more immigrants coming to the country to do a lot of these jobs. And a lot of these jobs are jobs that people born in the US don't want to do. Okay. I don't know a lot of people that want to pick blueberries. I don't know a lot of people that want to pick fruit, especially in the summertime. So there are a lot of jobs that are essential to the functioning of the US. Okay. And you have a lot of people who are against undocumented immigrants, things like this. And undocumented is a tricky term because a lot of people who come here who will get classified as illegal, a lot of them came here legally. They just overstayed their visas. Visa overstays contribute somewhere probably about to 40% of who we call undocumented. But one of the things I tell people is that if you're against quote unquote undocumented immigrants, I would encourage you, don't eat food that you did not grow yourself, because most likely somebody who was undocumented was involved in getting that food to your mouth.
Yep. And so what do we make of how can we make sense of this? And I love what my brother, You Don't Like My Music, put out. He said, humanity isn't another metric to be controlled. Now, I ideally I would agree. But because of the system of things, and You Don't Like My Music, I love that point. But you and I, Brother Michael, we all know that humanity is controlled. Humanity is a metric that is being controlled. I mean, that's how government works, right? We take a census here in the country every 10 years. Actually, the census is done more often than that. But I'm saying the big census is done every 10 years.
10 years, right.
Right? We take the census, so that way there is a count. And it's simply a count, folks. I don't want you to push back, but no, I don't want nobody to. They just counting your ass.
They're counting because they have to know where to allocate resources.
Right. And that's just the point I was getting to. Like, that's the part. But the bigger part is, this is how government, so especially here in the United States, determine where they're going to, where are the pockets of power, where the resources are going to go. You know what I mean? This is how they're looking at. And when we're looking at the big picture, Brother Michael, when you're looking at, okay, whoever is in government, they have to have a vision and a heart to be able to serve the people. Otherwise, this information can be weaponized. So how does the United States plan? And I'm just throwing this out there, and I'm not expecting you to answer it, Brother Michael, but I'm just saying the United States government is saying, okay, the world population is possibly going to go up to 8 billion over the next 8 years. As a result of that, they're saying that immigration and environment issues are going to be a big concern Resources are going to be a big concern. So how does the United States government prepare for that? That's going to be the one of the big conversation pieces over the next 8 years.
Yeah, you're going to need real immigration reform, which Congress has not taken up. Okay, you're going to need real fair policies when it comes to immigration reform. The other thing is that see, when you have migrants coming to especially the southern border, okay, and a lot of people oftentimes want to demonize them, and they become political backboards for people on Fox News to score political points off of, and they show them, coming here and they're coming to take this and take this and rape your wife and things like this, right? A lot of them are fleeing conditions in their home countries that the U.S. government had a hand in crafting. Okay, U.S. policies to Central American countries for like the last 50 years to the last 100 years have created a lot of the conditions that a lot of these people are fleeing from in the first place. Okay, and they're coming here to the U.S. So it's important to understand that as well. And one of the things, so there's a good article from Vice.com that I cite. It's called "The Violence Central American Migrants Are Fleeing Was Stoked by the U.S."
Right.
The violence that Central American migrants are fleeing was stoked by the U.S. This is from June 28th, 2018. I'll post a link here. And it's just like Donald Trump loved to talk about MS-13. But Donald Trump didn't say MS-13 started in Los Angeles, California, then they went into Mexico. He made it seem like they came from Mexico to the they started in Mexico and came to the U.S. No, MS-13, the gang, MS-13, they started in Los Angeles, California, okay, in the 1980s. So we also have to address this issue. We also have to understand U.S. policy to these various countries, and in the hand that the U.S. has in shaping these conditions also. But yeah, you're going to have real immigration reform, and we're going to have to look and see, and also have to address climate change, because climate change is playing a big role in this. In the article from Associated Press, it says there's also a greater pressure on the environment, increasing the challenges to food security that is also compounded by climate change.
Right.
Reducing inequality while focusing on adapting and mitigating climate challenges should be where our policymakers' focus should be. But Republicans are not voting for policies to fight against climate change, generally speaking. This is why I feel so important who you vote into office. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because let's connect the dots for folks. If it's too hot in an area that is normally not that warm, right? And you're growing crops, you're burning the crops, you're killing off the food, right? If it's too cold, again, the food thrives based upon what's happening naturally. But with climate change, that can change everything. And I'm not even talking about from 70 to 80. Do you know that if the climate change in some areas from 70 to 72, 75 degrees, that can make all the difference in the world. That could be a big problem, or it could be a big benefit. But the point is that the climate change piece is huge. Now, here's another point, because if we're talking about this level of growth at this rate, this is also going to speak to, Brother Michael, and this is what they brought up in the piece, that according to the UN, the family size, especially in developing countries in Africa, are going to have to be regulated. Take a look, folks. It says the population in sub-Saharan Africa is growing at 2.5% per year, more than 3 times the global average. Some of that can be attributed to people living together, but family size remains the driving factor. Women in sub-Saharan Africa, on average, have 4.6 births, twice the current global average of 2.3. Families become larger when women start having children early, and 4 out of 10 girls in Africa marry before they turn 18, according to United Nations figures. The rate of teen pregnancy on the continent is the highest in the world. About half of the children born last year to mothers under 20 worldwide were in sub-Saharan Africa. Still, any efforts to reduce family size now will come too late to significantly slow the 2050 growth projections. The UN said about 2/3 of it will be driven by the momentum of past growth. So now look at this. If the family is growing so big because young girls are having women and younger women are having children at younger ages, this opens the door. Here's my concern again, for nefarious purposes. This opens the door for contraceptions, right? That may be experimental. This opens the door for what we continue to read about, Brother Michael, in some of these developing countries where they are literally violating the bodies of women,
right? The
sexual organs of women, right? Because why? If the young women are getting children too fast and these families are expanding too much, then there aren't resources to support all these babies. I mean, and going back to the point that you always make is you understand you're looking at an issue and you keep going down to the greatest compound to understand like the implications or the impact that one issue can have on everything. So now it's going to have to be a situation where we're going to have to start legislating girls' choice to even have sex, to give birth, to get married, and to start a family. There may be some regulation in that. And that's scary part, Brother Michael. That's a scary situation that as a young woman in Africa, in some parts of Africa, you may be told rather, that, you can't have a baby until you get into a certain age, or you can't have this many babies. You can only have that many babies.
Right.
And if we start to see that, brother, that's going to open the door for all types of madness.
Well, I know China was doing something for years where they were limiting people to have only one child. And if you only have one child, then you got a lot of resources. If you had more than one child, then you didn't get as many privileges and resources, things like this. So they may have to, in different countries in Africa, they may have to implement something where they encourage women to have only 2 children or something like this, to try to get ahead of what they see coming. Okay, right. How severe the restrictions are based upon their laws, I don't know, but they're going to have to figure something out of how to address this, because this can increase poverty. This can increase famine. You have, in various countries, you have a shortage. You have a lot of competition when it comes to electricity, etc. So they're going to have to try. They're going to have to figure this out, and they may have to get. It's possible they may have to get aid from other countries as well. Woo! I don't know. But it's possible they may have to get some type of aid or assistance from other countries also. We'll see.
And see, here's the thing, and let's bring it home. In the United States, we have 337 million people in this country.
Right.
They're projecting that it will rise to 375 million by 2030, if I'm not mistaken. I want to make sure I'm saying this right.
2050, by 2050.
2050, excuse me, by 2050.
Right.
Are we going to, does this open the door for America to start looking at policy that will limit the growth of the family, i.e. the Black family? 2050, if you think about it, let's put it in context. Remember back in the day, Brother Michael, when you said 20 anything, you would be like, oh man, that's the Jetsons. That ain't gonna never happen. 2050, folks, is only
28 years. 28
years.
Right. I don't know if the U.S. will have to, because the U.S. is in a better position than a lot of African nations. I don't know if the U.S. will have to put in place limitations on how many children you can have. I doubt if it gets to that, but one of the biggest, one of the most urgent issues that the U.S. has to address is dealing with climate change, okay, and addressing the effects of climate change, which the Inflation Reduction Act will begin to do. But you're going to need more than just what's in the Inflation Reduction Act, okay?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest problems is that, generally speaking, Republicans are not voting for and not focused on passing legislation at the federal level that addresses climate change, okay? Which is another reason why we have to vote those people out of office, because you can't get the proper bills passed when you have obstructionists like that in office.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, I keep thinking of Handmaid's Tale, brother.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of you know what I'm saying? Like I keep thinking it's like a
cult. It's like a cult,
right,
like
a
Jenny Thomas
dystopian
was
reality.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like and you know, when we hear President Biden talking about the soul of America, when you hear him talking about protecting certain freedoms, and I get it, because what we've seen, not just with the January 6th thing, but just in the overall sentiment of the American people, and particularly coming, and look, y'all can say whatever about the Democrats, but they ain't talking about destroying the government like the Republicans are. Let's just keep it at real, all right?
Absolutely.
And so when you're talking about that level of anarchy, that level of chaos and disorder, that level of boldness to be able to say, you know what, we don't need certain laws in place, we don't need certain boundaries and all of those things, right? And you have over 330 million people in this country that rely heavily, are dependent upon the operations, the order and regulations of the United States government. When you have that many, I mean, this fundamentally is a problem. You cannot just wish away these type of sentiments. You can't even just legislate it. Like, there has to be a change in the culture and to activate people to the point, Brother Michael, where it's like, this is life or death. The stakes are so high.
Right.
Because our way of life is at risk of being disrupted. Now, if folks are cool with that, I mean, if you're cool with possibly getting shifted back 50, 60, 70 years in time because of policies, or if you're cool with us not having agencies over our own bodies, or women not being able to make their own choices and make their own decisions, then this is fine. But for those of us who don't want to see this, this is a whole different level of control that I'm very concerned about, brother.
Yeah, I'm concerned about it as well. Also, you know, looking at the future of Africa, I'm concerned about that as well. But you know, if the various European, you know, once again, Africa has natural resources to sustain itself. Okay. But you have colonizers that continue to plunder Africa for its natural resources, which is compounding the problem for Africa. So, you know, we'll see what happens with this. But with the U.S., you're going to have more aggressive policies to address the effects of climate change. Otherwise, this is going to get worse very quickly. And if Republicans take back control of the White House and as well as the Senate and keep the House of Representatives in 2024, they want to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. Republicans now are talking about repealing the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay. Now, they don't have the votes in the Senate to do it. And if it passes the House, And even if it passed the Senate right now, Biden would veto it. But if they take back control of the House, the White House in 2024, and they have the Senate and the House, they're going to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, which would be devastating.
Yeah.
Okay, because they don't want to address the harmful effects of climate change.
Right.
So this is why it's so important who we vote for and who we put in political office.
Hey, brother, you are absolutely right. Oh, man. Brother Michael, we're going to end the conversation right there. So many people have been checking in, some of our new watchers. Let me just throw it out there very quick before we end it out. Conscious Thought, you said China and Japan are having serious economic and future projection problems due to their lack of young people, and young people have children. China instituted one-child policy for over 25 years. Coco Laurel, you said it's not surprising that the patriarchy thinks women need help regulating their wombs. Look at the current state of affairs in the country. I'm telling you, folks, this is more of, and this we might see more. You know, Brother Michael, you said environmental policy. We could talk about immigration, but I think of the one of the driving forces will be the woman's body. How do you regulate that? And we're not seeing, of course, we know that doesn't spill over to the man side of things. Men aren't asked to be regulated. Women are. So that's going to be interesting.
It's men regulating women. Largely is men, especially old white men, regulating women.
Old white men.
Yeah. Regulating women.
And you know, that's crazy. It's not even black men. It's old white men regulating the bodies and the choices of women, black, white, Asian, Latino women all across this country and around the globe. Old white men.
Right.
Real Brooklyn, you say natural resources are being plundered by their own corrupt leaders who are money hungry. China and others cannot mine without these corrupted people giving them the go ahead. And to that point, Real Brooklyn, I appreciate that. To that point, we're in a very serious time, Brother Michael. I know you see it based on your research of history. This is coming down to I think we're on the precipice of a war. You know what I mean? The Bible says that you go to war with the forces of evil in high places, the forces of darkness in high places, right? Spiritual wickedness in high places. We're in the prelude of that right now, and seeing something. It starts off with a belief. It starts off with an attitude, but then once it becomes hardened into laws, then it takes on a whole different form. And then once those laws are implemented and enforced, it takes on another life of its own as well. So we are talking about that level of spiritual wickedness in very high places. And to your point, Real Brooklyn, when you are corrupt in your heart, then everything that comes out from you is going to be corrupt unless you make a change.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I mean, this is just straight up wickedness coming from Vladimir Putin. And it's believed that if he's successful in defeating Ukraine, which it doesn't look like he's going to be, but it's believed if he is successful, he won't stop there. He'll go into Poland. Well, Poland is where World War II started in September 1939, where Hitler invaded Poland. I mean, we're dealing with the region of the world where World War II started. Okay.
Right.
And if he invades Poland, then based upon Article 5 of NATO, then if any NATO country comes under attack, then all the other NATO countries have to come to their aid and help them fight, which would include the United States. So if he attacks Poland, now you basically launched World War III. Okay.
Wow.
So that's why what's taking place in Ukraine is so crucial. That's why with Republicans, and if Kevin McCarthy becomes Speaker of the House of Representatives, they're signaling that they could reduce the amount of aid going to Ukraine, and you have some Russian loyalists in the Republican Party as well that McCarthy will have to appease also. So there could possibly be a big reduction in the amount of aid going to Ukraine, which would be devastating as well, because if Ukraine falls, Putin is not going to stop there.
Nope.
Okay, this is what people have to
Nope.
understand. If Ukraine falls, Putin will not stop there. He will go into Poland, and it's going to have devastating consequences for the world.
Absolutely. Marcina, you checked in and said Roland should create an international relations show to the network. This topic is complex with different nuances. I would love to see that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
that is interesting, right? Like,
yeah.
You know,
now
we
Roland's going
need
to
a
say
Black international show.
Roland's calculating how much money it's going to cost to do that show, because all this stuff costs money. This ain't a YouTube show. All this stuff costs money. So yeah, but I understand the need is there for that.
I definitely do. Great point, Marcina. Thank you. Brother Michael, my guy, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, brother, for being on the show with us this afternoon, man. It's so good.
And I just want to mention my courses very quickly. We're teaching them this week. My website is theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. So we have my social media handles right at the top. You scroll down, see information about our radio show on Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We do thousands of years of history, what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. The class is on sale over 50% off. It's only $60. We're doing at least 10 weeks this time around, probably 11 or 12. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch the classes anytime. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can watch the class. Then on Tuesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., I teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And we look at history from the year 1800, and we look at the Louisiana Purchase and the Haitian Revolution from the year 1800 through 1968. Civil War, Reconstruction, World War I, World War II, Civil Rights Movement, Black Power Movement, Great Migration. Okay, to understand the laws and policies put in place after slavery ends, and what brought us to where we are today, to understand where we need to go from here. And we have a bundle pack. These make great gifts as well. Black Friday's coming up, Small Business Saturday. These make great gifts also. We have a bundle pack. You get both classes for $100. That's over a $300 value. You can email me through the website or email me at ahnshow@theafricanhistorynetwork.com, ahnshow@theafricanhistorynetwork.com. You can also call us 313-462-0003. These are some of my DVD lectures, and we have lectures on digital download as well. 313-462-0003. You can contact our office, and you can contact us through the website. It has our contact information there as well. But we definitely need your support. It takes a lot to run the African History Network and do the research, keep doing the shows, etc. Just like with Roland Martin Unfiltered and the culture. So we definitely need your support. But thanks for that, Faraji.
Absolutely, brother. Anytime. And God willing, we'll reconnect with you next week. Get more thoughts from you. And again, Brother Michael, thank you so much for your scholarship, your research, and keeping us on point, man. You bring a lot to the conversation. So we truly appreciate you here on The Culture.
Hey, thanks for having me, Faraji. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't checked out some of the latest streams that we got going on right now, Dr. Greg Carr had the man himself, Big Brother Roland Martin, on just a couple of days ago on his show, The Black Table. Make sure y'all check it out. As Brother Roland talked about his book, White Fear. You can definitely check that out. That's streaming live. That's streaming on Black Star Network. And just keep up. This is why we want you to show your support for Black Star Network. We're having these conversations each and every day, folks. And it's important that we engage you as much as we are having these discussions. So go to our website, go and download the app. It's at blackstarnetwork.com. You can go to the website and give something, financial donations, or you can just let people know and share the information when we come out with notifications about, any type of new programming, anything that's going on in the community across the country. They can find all of the information right at our website, and you could do the same at blackstarnetwork.com. Again, we're looking for financial donations, continue this great momentum that we have here for this Black and Media institution. And this is an opportunity for us to do something different. So I can't emphasize it enough, the importance and the significance of what we're doing here on the Black Star Network. It is all because we want to empower you. So we're asking for your support, and it makes all the difference in the world. Also, make sure you follow Black Star Network on all of our social media platforms on IG and Twitter. And while you're there, make sure you follow yours truly, Faraji Muhammad. You can find me at The Real Faraji on Instagram and Faraji on Twitter. Would love to connect with you, continue to build with you, have these conversations with you. So make sure y'all follow me on all social media platforms as well. That's going to do it for me, but I appreciate each and every one of you. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. And, as we're going into Turkey Day this week, folks, that's going to be a short week for a lot of folks. Let's continue to have these conversations, especially over the dinner table. Oh, I learned something from the culture on the other day, and they talked about this. They talked about that. Be some good conversation. So definitely get prepared for this week. But we'll continue to bring you some great conversations tomorrow. And on Wednesday, I got some more dynamic contributors and guests that will be joining us. So you don't want to miss one day of the culture. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow. Thank you to my team, King Keenan, Ariel, Joel, and my control room. Thank you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great afternoon and evening, and talk to you soon. Peace.